Hey y'all, I am so excited. We have got Katie Dodd today. If you don't know her, you've been living under a rock, but you're in luck because she is here to share her story with us. Welcome to the show, Katie.
Thanks, Adrien. I'm so excited to be here on the podcast.
It's awesome. Well, tell us who you are and what you just tell us your story. I just need to know all the deets.
Sure. So my name's Katie, and I've been a dietitian for 13 years. I actually only ever held one job. My first job I got out of school working in home-based primary care for the Department of Veteran Affairs. So I did my internship at a VA, fell in love with VA, the mission, the vision, the veterans, and even just how they treat dietitians within VA. So I ended up getting my first job in Southern Oregon. It was close to where I grew up. It was where my brother was living. And it happened to be my dream job. I absolutely loved it. I got to go hang out with older adults in their home, talk to them about food, drive all over beautiful Southern Oregon. So it really was a lovely job. And I was in that same job for 13 years. Now, along my journey, I kind of was an accidental entrepreneur. I think I've always been an entrepreneur, but I didn't self-identify up until even just a few years ago as an entrepreneur, because I always thought that to be an entrepreneur, you had to work with patients. And I work with patients in my full-time job and actually didn't have any interest in working with humans outside of my full-time job.
I love that.
So I really fell into side hustling. That is my brand, Dietitian Side Hustle. I fell into side hustling by accident. I know that Adrien, we've met at FNCE before, the Food Nutrition Conference and Expo. I've gone many times, which I know you have as well. And I was at the conference in Texas. Were you at that one?
I was, of course.
Yeah.
Any good Texas girl would be at the Texas one.
I thought you would be. So that was, I don't even know, God, maybe 8 years ago, but I was at that one. And I happened to meet a dietitian on the expo floor who was from the same town I was from, Medford, Oregon. And there's not a lot of dietitians like who are involved in the academy in Southern Oregon. So I was so excited to see another person from my town. We met on the expo floor, but if anyone's been to FNCE, you meet a lot of people. And then later you're like, I recognize you somewhere. But when I was flying home, there's no direct flights to Southern Oregon to like anywhere. So there was a dietitian in the airport and she looked so familiar and I couldn't pinpoint where I saw her before, just because, I met so many people. So then at our connecting flight, I saw her again. I'm like, who is she? I know her. And then I went and sat on the plane. The person who ends up sitting right next to me is that exact same dietitian. We start talking again, we start connecting, and I'm like, oh yes, you are the one from Medford, which explains why we're on the exact same plane together. But it was such a blessing that we happened to sit next to each other, because as I was talking to her, she was an entrepreneur. She had started a company called Nutrition Dimensions in the 1980s. It's a continuing education company for dietitians. And as things transitioned to online, she transitioned her company online. And I was so excited to meet with her and chat with her. And I personally wanted to improve my writing skills. So I asked her, hey, can I job shadow you, learn from you, pick your brain? And, I want to learn more about writing. And so she gave me her business card and said, send me an email in a week. And I did. And she happened to see that I was a board certified specialist in gerontological nutrition. So I specialize in geriatrics. She reached out to me and said, hey, Katie, I had someone who was writing an article for continuing education on geriatric nutrition and it fell through. Would you be interested? And of course, I'm like, heck yeah, I am. I'd love to learn this new skill, this new craft. But then she said she'd pay me. And this sounds a little silly, but I know you're a volunteer as well, Adrien, but I have been volunteering almost my entire career in the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics and the DPGs at the state level. And it almost sounds silly, but I've been volunteering so long, I didn't even realize I could take these same skills and get paid for it.
Oh my gosh, I'm laughing because it's so true. That's awesome.
Right. So I was really excited because not only was I going to get the experience of writing and updating a continuing education paper, because we learned so much more when we're on the back end of doing things versus just reading. And I was going to learn how to improve my writing craft, and I was going to get paid. So this was really my first introduction to the side hustle of like, I can do something on the side, not work with patients and get paid money.
What?
And mind blown. And so from there, it really opened up the door for me to look into, okay, what else can I do? From there, I ended up doing webinars for Dietitian Central. They're a continuing education company with webinars, and they just happened to have an ad on Facebook. I responded to them and started doing webinars through Dietitian Central. I think I did one last week. I still do them for them. And so I was starting to just realize there's all these cool things that I can do as a dietitian on my own time to make money, to make impact, and again, not work with humans. So as I continue kind of with my journey into entrepreneurship, because at this point I still wasn't self-identified as an entrepreneur. I don't think I knew what I was. I was just doing my thing. And I ended up going to a conference in 2019. It was the Oregon and Washington Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics Conference in Seattle in 2019. And I happened to hear 3 amazing entrepreneurial dietitians speak. And at that conference, something like sparked in my heart. I was like, I am an entrepreneur. And so for real. So I started that day really dreaming of like, okay, what could my business look like? What could this look like as I actually pull everything together? Because I was just doing things willy-nilly at that point. So I didn't entirely know what it would look like at that point. But like I said, a fire sparked in me that day, and I recognized I am an entrepreneur, and there's lots of things that I can do that that really fit me and who I am. So, kind of to fast forward my journey, because I could probably talk for the whole podcast about this journey, but to kind of fast forward the story, I ended up falling into blogging. I learned search engine optimization. I started a blog called The Geriatric Dietitian in June of 2019. I joined the Nutrition Entrepreneurs DPG. That's where we met at Fincy, because I went to every event they had to offer because I was drinking the Kool-Aid at that point and I was so into it. I continued to build up my blog, building lots of traffic. I was having so much fun on this journey. I started a podcast called Dietitian Side Hustle because I just had to tell everyone else about all this cool stuff that you can do as a dietitian online. And so I started my podcast. I ended up starting a program called the Blogging Accelerator Program, where I teach other dietitians how to do what I did. Because like, hey, who knew you could actually build a business based around blogging, make money without working with clients, and build multiple streams of passive income. So eventually I have a second blog now, a food blog that's continuing to grow. And
what's that called?
It's called High Calorie Recipes.
Ooh, I love it.
I'll go on a little bit of a tangent.
Okay.
So I've worked with older adults my entire career. And if you work with geriatrics, a lot of what you're doing is stopping unintended weight loss, high calorie foods. And I would always get so frustrated because you have this older adult who's got poor appetite. They don't feel like eating. And we give them a handout. Usually it's black and white because we don't have money for printed, copies. It's been photocopied too many times. They're like, here's this handout with a list of high calorie foods. Good luck gaining weight.
Yeah.
And then I think about when we want recipes, we go on Google and we find these beautiful food blogs with these beautiful, tasty recipes and delicious photos. I'm like, well, why not older adults who need to gain weight? Why can't we create something like that for them? Because most of what's online is low calorie. It's not high calorie. Oh yeah. Yeah. So even trying to create content was hard because it's like trying to go counter to that. But that's another story. But so I actually wanted to create this website from the moment I started the Geriatric Dietitian, but I knew one thing at a time. If we tried to do everything, we end up doing nothing well. So I waited until I started making significant income on the Geriatric Dietitian before I started my food blog. So I started that in January of 2021 is when it officially launched. And so it's starting to grow. It's not as big as my primary blog, The Geriatric Dietitian, but it is getting there. So that's why I created it, just as a resource for people who need to gain weight. And what's great is it's not just older adults who go to this website. It's actually bodybuilders, cancer patients, like all kinds of people who are underweight or want to they just want more calories for mass, right? So there's actually a huge need out there. Even though I speak to my specific person, it does help other people too. That's
so cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're blogging and all that. What happened with the VA? Are we still VAing?
Oh, yes. I got on a tangent. So we got to get to the best part. So along my journey, I think for me, where the game really changed is when I started investing in business coaching, because I started realizing that entrepreneurship is this cool thing. I'm kind of doing it on my own. I kind of know what I'm doing, but I kind of don't entirely know what I'm doing. So I ended up finding a business coach. His name is Greg Todd. He's actually a physical therapist. And
Greg.
Oh, do you?
I do. That's awesome. He's amazing. And we met at a conference.
Oh, did you? Oh yeah. Yeah. He's great. So I met Greg. I took some programs from him, and it took a while before I started working with him, but I eventually joined his mastermind. Actually last January, he was doing like a quarterly mastermind, but then this past June of 2021, he offered a year-long mastermind. And at this point, I'm working full time. I'm a mom. I didn't mention that. I've got an 11-year-old and a 7-year-old. I volunteer a lot within the academy. So I've got a lot of hats that I wear. And on top of this, I'm building the side hustle, which is continuing to grow in amazing ways. And so I'm working with my business coach, and we're at a live event actually in Orlando, Florida this past June. And he made an offer for a year-long mastermind program. And the program was $30,000. And when he made this offer, everything inside of me was like, well, number one, I have to do this. Number two, holy crap, this is the scariest thing ever. For reference, the previous year, my side hustle, I made $25,000. And so here I am, like $30,000. What am I doing? But it ended up being the best decision I ever made. I put it on a credit card because I did not have the money. I ended up paying it off within 1 month before credit card fees ever hit. I don't know. My business coach does say, when you pay attention. I'm like, oh yeah, you do. Because, I'm like, okay, number one, I believe in myself. I know it's possible. This is what I want to do. And I'm going to do the work. And from there, I will say I wasn't intending to leave my job. Even at that point, when I invested that money, I was like, well, maybe in 3 years. Okay. Maybe in a year, we'll get crazy. When I think a lot of dietitians, when you get into the VA, you don't leave. They pay well. It's a good place to work. You get a pension, a 401k. Like, no one has pensions anymore. No. And right. So I fully intended on working at the VA until I was 68 and a half years old, and then retiring with my pension. Like, I had a very specific plan until I started, drinking the entrepreneurial juice. So even at the point that I joined that mastermind, I still wasn't convinced that I was going to leave. Now, fast forward a few months being in my mastermind, we met in person quarterly, and there's so much value to meeting in person. I feel like one in person, it's like 100 Zooms. So we're in person in Orlando again in September of 2021. And at our mastermind, there's 11 other people in that group. They're mostly physical therapists, one occupational therapist, and I'm the dietitian holding down the fort.
Yes, the dietitian. Yes.
Yeah. And in our mastermind, there was a point where we go around and we have an ask for the group. And my ask was, how can I continue to improve my blogging accelerator program and serve dietitians better? And what everyone told me was, Katie, you need to quit your job. And I was like, I didn't ask you guys that. And I had every single reason on why I couldn't possibly leave my job. They pay me well. I have a pension, health insurance. My family uses a lot of health insurance. And it was really cool because all of my mastermind friends saw something in me that I couldn't see in myself. And every single limiting belief I had, they peeled down one at a time, very lovingly and caringly, but they just kept peeling every excuse I threw up. They took it right back down. I was like, oh, I feel so offended, but I didn't say this to them that day. But in my head, I told myself, okay, 2021 is going to be the last year I ever work at the VA. The next evening, I did tell some of them, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this. I don't know what it's going to look like. It's September. We're down to the wire. I don't know what this is going to look like, but I'm in. So when I flew back from Orlando to Oregon, because again, no direct flights, I had 2 flights with a layover. So I had plenty of time to think, to scheme, to dream. And so for me, I'm a spreadsheet kind of girl. I'm a PowerPoint. I'm a planner. So I crunched the numbers and I figured out, okay, what's it going to look like for me to leave the VA? I called it my peace out plan. And for what that looked like for me is I wanted to pay off all of our debts outside of our mortgage, because our mortgage is less than rent these days. So whatever. Yeah. And I also wanted to save enough money to cover 6 months worth of VA paychecks. That way it's like, okay, I got a buffer. It's not, I'm not going crazy here. So I came up with that plan. And then I also came up with a plan with, okay, what is it going to look like for me to sustain being a full-time entrepreneur every single month if I am doing this? So like the excuse I had that, the life or the health insurance thing. There's this crazy thing where you could actually buy your own health insurance.
Isn't that crazy? Crazy. Who would have thought?
Right. So budgeting with okay, if I am paying for my own health insurance, or if I'm paying for okay, yes, they put money into my 401k. Okay, let's budget for me putting money into my 401k. So really doing the math of what it would look like for me to be a full-time entrepreneur. So I did all the math. I'm like, this is doable.
Yep.
So I started with my plan, and sure enough, on December 1st of that year, just a couple months later, I turned in my notice at the VA. I ended up leaving the VA at the very end of December. I gave them a month notice, and I have been a full-time entrepreneur for now almost 5 months. So it's been a pretty crazy, wild journey. One that I didn't plan for, but one that I am so, so grateful for, because my goodness, I've been side hustling for so long. I was side hustling for about 7 years, kind of doing it randomly, but then really diving into it as like a self-identified entrepreneur for about 2.5 years before leaving my job. And this was always something I did on the side for fun. And I'm in this position now where I feel like I'm on vacation forever. What I'm doing doesn't feel like work. It feels like the stuff I do anyways. And I just think, what a blessing is it that I get to be home. I've got 2 kiddos, so I'm actually able to be with them in the mornings, get them ready for school. I was starting work at 6:30 in the morning. I worked 4 10s. And so I wasn't able to see my kids in the morning. So now I get to see them every morning, can get them ready for school. They are no longer an after school program, except Mondays, because I have a feisty 11-year-old and he does his homework on Mondays and after school program. So that's working well for us.
Nice.
But other than that, they come home every day and I get to be more present with my kids. I go to the gym every day with my dad. I just get to help and serve dietitians and do what God put me on this earth to do. And I just like love every moment of it. So I'm like, I'm just so filled with gratitude that this is the life that I get to live, especially even just looking back 1 year. This wasn't in the plans for me. Like I didn't think I'd be here at all. So it's been a pretty wild journey. It all came out of side hustling, but it has been one that has been so fun, and one that I'm very grateful for.
So I have so many questions, and it just is so exciting. Like, if you guys could see Katie right now, like she's like glowing with like pure joy of just like, this is what I meant to be doing. And just like, it's just so exciting. So one, congratulations. Like, this is awesome. Like, so your side hustle, AKA your full-time job now, is blogging and teaching other dietitians how to blog.
Yep.
That's and this, and the geriatric dietitian, and then the high calorie recipe. So do you have 3 websites going and a podcast?
Yes.
And all this volunteer stuff?
Yeah. Okay. So yes, I do have a website for the geriatric dietitian for high calorie recipes. And I do have one for a dietitian side hustle. And and my podcast, Dietitian Side Hustle, and my social media. And then I still volunteer a lot, but yeah.
So you are busy. Like when I go through, I'm like, holy hell, that sounds like a lot.
It is, but I will say, I think part of it's just how my brain works and how I'm able to like kind of put things together. And the other cool thing too, is as I've been able to make money, for example, through my blogs, I'm able to take some of that money and hire other people, which is great. To give other dietitians their first side hustle opportunity has been such a joy, but then it also takes less of my time. I actually spend very little time in my blog these days, but it still makes money for me. So it's really a lovely gig.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh, I love that. That's even better to be able to like give back to the dietetic community. Oh, perfect. So, okay. What does I know there is no typical day in the entrepreneur life. So now that you're not at the VA, like how do you spend your time?
So I feel like a lot of my time it's every day is different. I have a whiteboard up and it has like, okay, here are like the big things that are coming up. So based on what's coming up, what I do is different, but I feel like most of my days have a pretty similar cadence. I personally wake up at 5 a.m. because I'm one of those crazy people.
Me too.
Oh, are you? Have you read the 5 a.m. Club?
I think I've read, what is it? That one by not Stu. What? It's something crazy. Yes. The morning, I'm one of those humans as well.
Yeah. Well, I've always been an early bird, but I read this book, The 5 a.m. Club, and it's so good. So I wake up at 5 a.m. and I have this routine I do for about an hour. It's usually a little over, but I exercise for 20 minutes. I do Bible study for 20 minutes. I read a professional development book for 20 minutes. So that's how I start my day. And then I get the humans up, the little humans, my kids, get them up, get them ready to school, get them off to school. Then I drive to the gym and meet my dad and work out again because I just enjoy it. And so then after that, I come home, and typically at that point, it's around 9 o'clock in the morning. And that's usually when I'll have like my first meeting or call. So it varies based on what I'm doing. I do a lot of work also with dietetic interns. So I might be meeting with an intern, or I might be doing a podcast episode, or doing some collaboration with other healthcare professionals, or working on getting stuff out for a launch I'm doing within my program, or posting an article that someone else wrote. So every day looks a little bit different, but I think that I have that cadence in the morning where I'm not really doing work, but it sets my brain up right. And it really helps me to get the most out of the time I have. And in general, I try to wrap things up before my kids get home. Now I do have some programs, for example, with the Blogging Accelerator program, I have calls that we do once a month now. It'll be twice a month soon. And those are a little bit later because most people are side hustlers. And I want to make sure, like, that if they're working, they can't make the call. So I do have some things I do a little bit later in the evening, but that's mostly what it looks like. I generally work Monday through Thursday, if needed. Entrepreneur, you can do whatever you want when you want, but I try to keep some separation and boundaries. I even got like a work cell phone just because I really want to keep separation because I am at home, because this is something I've been doing on the side for fun for so long. I have to kind of create some boundaries on it. Like, okay, Katie, this is work. Make sure you actually find new ways to play and have fun and hobbies outside of just what I've been doing as dietetics. So,
ooh, what are some of your new fun hobbies that are not dietetic or business related?
Oh goodness. So I've been dancing lately.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, this one was kind of accidental. I think I knew when I made this transition, it was going to be a little bit hard just because it's going to be such a different transition. I was busy doing all the things when I had a full-time job. That 40-hour-a-week job really got in the way of all the fun stuff, but I was very, very busy. And so I knew it's going to look totally different when I am doing this full time. And I need to make sure that I, number one, don't burn myself out, because I'm the kind of person I could work hot and heavy and totally fry myself out. And I didn't want to turn this thing I loved into something I don't love. So I had to be very careful of not burning myself out. So I made this plan of, okay, what am I going to do to fill some of the gaps of time? So it's not just me frying myself out. So initially I was planning to learn piano just because I want to do something completely outside of dietetics. I'm like, I want to learn something new, do something. I'm a creative human, just something there. So initially it was going to be piano because my parents had a piano they got from, my mom's mom. It's in our house now. I was like, I'm going to get that tuned. I'm going to learn to play it. But I had a little bit of a curveball because my husband is friends with someone in our community who runs a not-for-profit called Sparrow Clubs. It's a really amazing program that really focuses on supporting kids in medical need. And it really helps schools rally around this child in medical need. They teach servant leadership. So these kids volunteer. Through their volunteer hours, donors donate money to these families in need. Really wonderful organization, again, called Sparrows Clubs. And they do this event every year called the Rogue Valley, is where I live, the Rogue Valley Dancing with the Stars. And they haven't done this event for a few years because of COVID. And so my husband's friends with the person who runs this program. My husband gives him my cell phone number, and I get a text from the person who runs the program and says, "Hey, Katie, good news. We're bringing back the Rogue Valley Dancing with the Stars," which is great. My mom and I go, it's wonderful. It's where they have local stars. It's like the TV show is what it is. So he said, "We're bringing it back and we'd like you to be in it on a hip hop squad." And my first thought was like, it took me about 10 minutes to walk through this. And I had a dietitian friend with me. So she got to see the whole experience. So at first I'm filled with terror. I'm like, that is awful. I have told myself my entire life, I can't dance. I'm like one of those people who always says, I can't dance. But I thought about my business, and a lot of what I talk about in my business is about how anything's possible and you can do anything and you can learn anything. And I was like, well, gosh, if I say that, do I really believe that? And maybe this is a good opportunity for me to test this theory, because while I say I can't dance, I have never tried to dance. I've never taken dancing lessons. I've never done anything seriously. It's just something I've always told myself I can't do. So within 10 minutes, I worked through all the stuff in my head because I was like, oh, it's for charity. Okay, I can really push myself, my mindset. And so I ended up texting Matt back, the person who runs this organization. And I told him, this sounds awful. I will do it.
This is horrible. I cannot. Oh my.
So I am now part of a hip hop squad. So we practice several times per week doing a hip hop dance routine. And I will tell you quite a few fun things have come out from this. Number one, I can dance. I think anyone can dance, but it's been really helpful for me to see the stories that I tell myself and the things that I tell myself sometimes subconsciously. As we started dancing, I realized another thing I tell myself is I have a bad memory. Because in dance, you have to memorize the routine. Yep. And I found all of these things. I'm like, man, how does this, I mean, I know there's small things. I can't dance. I don't have a good memory, but how does that show up also in my life and in my business and in the form of these limiting beliefs of things that I'm subconsciously telling myself I'm not good at or I can't do? I am actually reading a book right now called Limitless. It's by Jim Quick. And he was one of the speakers at Fancy. Oh, right. And in it, he talks about how there's no such thing as a good memory and a bad memory. It's a trained memory or an untrained memory. And so I'm learning all of these things about my brain and myself. And it's been such a joy to learn dance, to dance with other people, to share this journey and just all the things I'm learning on the inside. So I will be making my, it's actually very soon, my hip hop stage debut on, what is the date? May 7th.
So. Oh my gosh. We will have to have pictures. We will need all of the details. Oh, yeah, I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah. The more and more I get to know about you, Katie, I'm like, we're going to be best friends. I mean, you don't know this yet, but we're going to be best friends. Oh, wow. So with all of this, like ability to have this dream job that feels like a vacation, to be there more for our family, like, how do you see this continuing and not like, because it's one of those, like, it feels so good right now and I want it to like stay there for you. How do you feel? Like, do you want it to grow? Do you want it just to stay where it is? What's next? Or what are you thinking?
Yeah, well, I'll kind of answer kind of both questions you're asking, but my business coach told me, because I think he could tell when we met in person just how grateful I am. Like, I am so, so grateful. And he said, if you want to continue to grow and have success, stay grateful, like maintain that gratitude and stay uncomfortable. And I think that's kind of my mantra is like moving forward is like, stay grateful and uncomfortable. And discomfort used to be something I would avoid, but I now have recognized that discomfort is where we grow. And there's actually so much good that comes out of discomfort. Yeah. So where I see things going, I don't entirely know where things are going. I can't imagine not doing what I'm doing because I love it so much. I'm definitely going to keep doing this. I want to continue to reach out and help other dietitians who want to start side hustles outside of working with humans, so those other blogger dietitian friends out there, helping them to build a business based around blogging. I've also started, it's called the Blog Boss Mastermind because a mastermind has been so game changing for me, having the guidance of a business coach and having the support of other people who are same mindset of leveling up. And even though they're PTs, but they're still healthcare. It's still the same thing. So the mastermind has been so crazy valuable for me, from joining this mastermind to like leaving my job within 6 months, like, holy cow. And not even just that, but just the impact it's had on me personally and my life and my family. And so I was like, I need to make this for dietitian bloggers. Like, I got to do this. So I actually had started this as a quarterly mastermind. I've done a couple of quarters of it. And then I just started a year-long mastermind where we're going to meet in person twice. And so just really providing that support and help with dietitians who really want to level up their online businesses, who are based in blogging. Some of them do work with humans, and that's okay. But it's a blend, right? There's so many things we could do as dietitians online, from working with patients to having courses, group programs, selling ebooks, digital goods, affiliate sales, ad revenue on blogs. There's like so many things we can do to make money and impact. So I think my vision is to continue to grow my blogging accelerator program, continue to grow and build my Blog Boss Mastermind, and really just help and inspire as many dietitians and RDs to be as I can. And from there, just listening with what does God have next for my life, and just continuing to serve and help people. I think that's really the heart of what I do, is just helping people.
Oh, Katie, that is just awesome. I can't wait to see what happens for you. It's been such a joy to see this like unfold over the last couple of years for you. It's so cool. So are you still working with Greg?
Oh yeah. For sure. I'm still working with him. We're going to meet our next in-person masterminds in June, and he'll be doing another pitch for a year. It's not even a question. I don't even care what he charges. He always raises his rates. I know it'll make me go like again, but that's okay because I got to stay uncomfortable. So I suspect, I know I will always be working with a business coach and in a mastermind. I don't always know who I'll be working with and what that's going to look like, but it's just been so, so valuable for me. It's like, for me, it's a business expense and it's a part of business that I'm always going to keep with me because, and I know, this as a business, person and coach yourself, but entrepreneurship can be a lonely game when you're doing things in a bubble. It's not always sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
When you hit a wall, when you hit a block, when your mindset starts going crazy, telling you, who do I think I am? You can't possibly do this. Being around those people who are going to keep the momentum going, so you just don't stop and stall and get in your head, they help keep you going. They remove those limiting beliefs. They help you to pivot and twist and tweak until you reach your goals. So I don't think I would ever want to do this entrepreneur game alone. I think I'm always going to have a business coach.
Oh, I love that. It's so true. And it's one of those for everybody that doesn't have your entrepreneurial posse, find it. Like it is, it's so life-changing. I've had my mastermind. I think I've talked about it on the podcast for, I think we're on our 5th year together. And in that we've had 5 or 6, of the 5 women in it, I think almost everybody has leveled up 3 times. It's insane to see. You're like, wait, did that just happen? Did that just happen? So it's pretty darn cool when you get a whole bunch of entrepreneurs together. There was a quote that says, you are the average of the 5 people you surround yourself with. Yep. So I love that. Well, Katie, I always ask our guests if there's some words of wisdom that you can bestow on us and really help inspire us to take our journey, what's something that we can be doing today in our businesses, in our practices to really help us to take that next step?
Yeah. I think what I would recommend, honestly, is for anyone listening, just to take time to yourself to think. We have these amazing brains between our ears and we don't use them enough. We're so distracted by, I know you're listening to a podcast. No, it's great and lovely. Don't get me wrong, but we're so distracted by technology, all the noise around us. And sometimes we just need time to be quiet and to think. So I would say schedule some time just to be alone with yourself and think. Leave the phone in the other room, throw it if you have to, make sure that ringer's off, and just have time where it's just you and a piece of paper and a pen. And start dreaming of all the things you want to do. I like talking about big, audacious dreams. I think that all of us have these dreams in our hearts, in our heads that we want to do that maybe we've never said to anyone before because they feel too big, too audacious. Who do I think I am? I'm not good enough to do that. These big, crazy dreams, even if it's outside being a dietitian, maybe you want to do something that doesn't have anything to do with being a dietitian. And you're like, this is what I went to school for. This is what I have to do. Who would I to be doing this crazy thing? So I know each and every one of you listening have those big, crazy, audacious dreams, those things that are in your heart. Again, maybe you've been too scared to speak it out into the world, but I would say schedule the time, sit, think, and dream, and get those big, audacious dreams out of your head and write them down on paper. Once you get them on paper, then you can start really moving forward with the dream, with what you want to do. Because I think for me, I had a lot of dreams in my head. I was just too scared to speak out into the world because I thought, who do I think I am to do this crazy, crazy thing? And it really doesn't matter. You could do whatever you want to do. And again, my whole hip hop journey, I know it's silly, but we could do anything we want to do. It's just having the freedom and permission to be your authentic self, to get out of your own way, get out of your head, and to get those dreams out of your head, those big, audacious dreams you have, and just start pursuing them because we only get this one life. Yeah. And we might as well be doing these amazing things that we live. And again, going back to gratitude on how I'm so glad that I chased these big dreams. Even investing in a $30,000 mastermind was terrifying. And thank God I did, because I took a chance on myself in a way that was scary. And it's totally counter to everything I learned. But let's be honest, we don't think twice about getting a student loan, right?
No.
We get student loans and we get into all this debt to make not very good paying jobs as dietitians, but the idea of investing in our business and ourselves is like crazy.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it was just this complete gratitude of the life I'm living now, because this is even better than I've ever imagined and dreamed. And I'm just getting started. So
yes. Oh my gosh. Like I just want to like give you a million high fives, and I can't wait, because I bet you're going to be at Fancy this year, right?
oh yeah. Oh, I'll be there.
Yes, good. We're gonna like continue our best friend like saga there. Oh, Katie, this has just been such a joy. So how can we learn about you, learn about everything that you have going on?
Sure. So you can follow me on Instagram at Dietitian Side Hustle. I also have a lovely growing Facebook community called Dietitian Side Hustle as well. It's a Facebook group. I have a podcast called Dietitian Side Hustle. It's found on all of the major podcast directories, and also my website, dietitiansidehustle.com. There are lots of ways we can connect and different resources available on the website. You can find my dietitian online mini course. It's a free mini course where you can learn about all the different like ways you can make money online as a dietitian, learn about more side hustle ideas, and just some free resources to really help you get started, even if you're an entrepreneur already, thinking of like, instead of it as like a side hustle where a full-time job and doing something on the side, maybe it's adding more streams of revenue, doing something else in your business. So just lots of stuff to give you ideas and inspiration.
Oh, Katie, we will definitely put all of those links in our show notes. This has just been such a treat. Thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me.